Well, hello everybody. This is just the best day ever because we're going to get to play. We're going to get to do something that I've promised you, and that is the mirror pendants. And we're going to learn to put charms on them, and it's super easy and super fun. And it's kind of really a play day for me too because it doesn't require any reducing, and you don't even have to make new cane unless you don't have any. So I'm going to show you how to do this, and I think you really like it. And I want to tell you something, I really think it's great for you to be lifelong learners. And you are that if you're tuning in to me, even if you're just watching me right now. Because lifelong learning is something I value so much. It's really the whole purpose behind this. It's the reason that I study polyclay. And it's the reason that I keep practicing and searching out interesting artists to learn from. And if I have the sense that you're doing that too with my videos, that brings a lot of meaning to it for me. So thank you for tuning in. Thank you for seeking knowledge. I think it's a great trait, and I want to compliment you on that. So we're going to begin, and I want to tell you that after the lesson, I've got a special bonus cane for you. It's really neat. It's something that I think anybody would want to make, and it's easy to make. You'll want to run away from your computer and go make it right away because it's got a ton of applications. So stay tuned at the end for that. I'm going to throw it on there later because we need to begin on this project that we're concentrating on today. So let's begin. So here we are. We've got some pendants that you've seen, I think, on my preview and the things that we talked about with mirror beads. And I go into this assuming like, oh, you know what mirror pendants are, but not everybody that's tuning in today has been following this kind of stuff. So, what a mirror pendant is, it's just something that's made out of a piece of clay that itself is made out of other pieces of clay. And when you form it a certain way and you cut it down the middle and open it like a book, you get all kinds of neat stuff, So sometimes you just get patterns and designs, and sometimes you get like this little guy that reminds me of some kind of a wizard. Or you get this guy that, looks like a little steer, and that's why I made him into a steer, because he looked like one. So you get all different things out of it, and that's what I want to do with you today. There's one thing we'll be talking about, and that's the difference between a mirror pendant, like these are, and material that's made out of canes that have been wrapped. I call them composite pendants or composite beads. And what these are is a pendant made out of cane scraps, cane ends, and cane pieces that have been wrapped in a thin layer of black, or could be gold or copper, whatever your accent color is going to be. And then when they're put together, they give you a different look, and that's why I have them out today. You can see the difference between any of these that are just the colors and these that have been wrapped. We'll do both of those today. And then here's another little composite item. It's a little tiny bowl. I put my Tic Tacs in. That's what I use it for. And what it is that this is a nice piece of composite material just made into a little kaleidoscope cane. So you can do lots with it, and it's not very hard. And it's generally used at about the size that you start with. So we'll go ahead and get into that. I'll just move these items over. So what you need on hand for this is you need your blade and your surface, like we always do. And you need your roller, like we always do, to kind of settle things down. And what's really good to have on hand is a nice slab of thick material on a #1 setting. I made you different colors today just so we could see how they look. You can get accents, like little bails and head pins and eye pins and stuff to do your charms and your top loops with, out of copper, out of black, out of silver, and of course gold and antique gold. So that's why I put backs on these of those kind of colors, but you can choose anything that you want to. So what we start out with, these are on #1, I think I told you, is we start out with some canes, and I'm just going to choose some random canes out of my big giant box of them. And one thing you want to do with your mirror or composite pendants, we'll do both, is you want to get the scale matched. And when I say that, I mean if I have this big glob of green and then I have a bunch of little other ones around it, it's really going to focus a little too much on the green piece. So I like to bring them down for something like this to a smaller shape, and sometimes even a different size. So when I'm saying that, I'm just saying that I could pinch this, make it like the little teardrops that we like. We could take down both sides, make it kind of like a little bean or football shape, or, you know, it probably has a name that I don't know what it is. But you can make it into kind of more subtle shapes so that you're not stuck with big gobs of one color or the other, unless that's what you want, okay? So you got a couple of these. This one's already wrapped in black, so that's really easy. Then you could take one maybe that's completely different. Let's take this one. And this was some fish scales I was working on for a mermaid project that I didn't get to show you yet, but I'll show you pretty soon. And so I'm going to take this one and I'm going to go ahead and wrap it in black so we can get that look I'm talking about with the I'm going to put it over here, with a composite where you have each piece kind of delineated a little bit. It's just a different look, a little bit less random looking than the usual mirror material. That's what I like about it. So I think you know from past experience to bring your wraps around kind of tight. Since we're going to be compressing this, it doesn't matter if you got it a little stretched or thinner someplace. You know, it's not like you know, rocket science. So when you want to make your wrap, you do want to make sure it's kind of a nice clean wrap, and you do that by making a line where you folded it over. So you've probably seen that in books and stuff, but it's kind of helpful. I know I do it a lot. You cut it a little bit short of the line so that when you bring it back around, you can kind of squeeze it together, and that way you don't have a big bump where it meets. So maybe in this cane it wouldn't be too big a deal, but sometimes you're really not going to want to have anything extra sticking out of your wrap, okay? So you have that. And we're going to bring this down in size also to something a little bit more manageable, something more in keeping with the scale. And you know, I talk a lot about scale, but it's really what makes, I think, what makes your canes beautiful is not that everything's the same size, but that one thing isn't looking like it doesn't belong there. So that's what I'm trying to achieve with scaling these and making them be kind of cohesive in the way that they look together. So don't worry about your length matching right now. That will be too hard to get everything perfect. Just think about your sizing right now. So I'll take another one. This is really a neat one. This is a little rose. I built a lot of cool stuff with it, but you can see it's just about over its time. It's really small. Now this is translucent material, and something you should know about translucents are, I love them. They're beautiful, but I bet you guys really like the pearl colors, like this pearl purple in here, the pearl blue, green. I think there's maybe a teal. They're just gorgeous, but whenever you use pearls, you want to remember that they're translucent. Now that can be good and that can be bad. You're going to hang this stuff by itself in front of a window, you know, that's one thing, but that's not what you're going to do. So you got to remember to always wrap your translucent in a thin sheet of white. This is a little more white because this is a Skinner blend. But just remember, if you don't want to be disappointed in your pearl colors, wrap the pearl components in just a thin sheet of white, and that will separate them from the other colors, and they won't disappear on you. And believe me, I know what I'm talking about because I messed up a lot of translucent material, believe me. Okay, so you got that. And let's add a couple more to it because I want it to be really interesting, really fun. Here's a pink and orange Skinner blend. We don't have that yet, do we? So I'm going to wrap it up, I think, in a sheet of black, and I'm going to add it to our little mix here today. So here's some black, and we're going to throw it in and get it wrapped up, make our little line where we want to cut it, and cut it, and make it neat by pinching our seam shut, okay? Much better to stretch the seam than to overlap the seam. I know I always tell you that, but one of these days you're going to say, I'm glad old Pandora told me that, because doesn't look good when it's bumpy. Okay, so I'm going to take this one down too, and the really cool thing about this is you don't have to be super careful when you reduce it like you do with geometric canes and canes you spend hours building, because man, it's scrap, you know. So the nice thing about scrap is it's so forgiving, and you figure worst thing that can happen is you won't like it, but you know, it was already scrap, so not the end of the world, huh? So I think I'm going to do 5. We've got 4 here. I'm going to bring this down until it's not going to take over my design, and I'm going to put it with these other ones and think about the shape a little bit while I reduce another one. Now I know I promised you no reducing. Maybe you think I was lying to you, but I meant that once we build this cane, it looks good in the size that it is, and you don't have to reduce it, you know. And this is pretty easy. This isn't so bad. So I like that. I think it's really neat. I like the color, but I'm going to just put a big gouge in it or something, because the shape of it is just really underwhelming and boring. So I'm going to take this one and I'm going to put a groove in it. And I'm going to pinch off one side into a different shape. And that's going to add a lot of interest to our mirror material. I think I'll make it really small on one side and maybe even curl it up a little bit. See what I mean? So when you're making these shapes, they're all going to add to the interest of your cane, and you don't have to have it all just lined up like little soldiers. You know, you're trying to get away from that kind of a look. Okay, so there we go. We got 3. Let's have one more. I brought a lot of stuff today. I should have brought less, really. I've got to add one more, and I think it's going to be this one. Okay, now this one's pretty small already, so I'm not going to reduce it very much. I think I'm just going to stretch it out and leave it in kind of this shape here. Okay, so we've decided on 5. Uneven numbers kind of, I don't know, they kind of look better. So now I'm going to cut the end off of each one so I can really see what I've got here. Okay, so what have I got? I got a kind of good size hunk of pink and orange. Got a medium size with pink and blue. I don't want those too close together, so I'm going to divide them up with other ones. I think I'm going to divide it like that, okay? So far I've got that. This one's really threatening to be too much, so I'm going to make it a little bit smaller, wonky up the sides of it a little bit to make it a little bit more different. Okay, and I'm going to see what I've got here. And then I'm going to take my interesting rose, and since I've got some purple in there, I think I'll divide it with something. So I'm going to use my green guy, okay, my green one to divide it up, okay? So now when we add this piece in there, it won't just be, I don't know, it looks better over there. It won't just be stuck right on there next to the same colors. That one's got some sparkly in the black too. I love that sparkly stuff. I don't know if you guys do, but I like anything kind of twinkly. Okay? So this is what we've got so far. So here we have a little pile of stuff. You know, not too impressive, right? But what we're going to do is we're going to cut it in half to give it a little bit more class. I'm going to take it up to 2 inches first, because anytime I have to do mathematics that involve uneven amounts, it causes me to go into convulsions, and none of us want that. So I'm going to go to 2 inches approximately, and I'm going to cut it at 1 inch approximately. I kind of measure everything, because honestly, when I don't, I'm so far off, it's just really upsetting. Okay, so I'm not really ready to mirror these yet, and I don't want you to either, because you just don't want to just give up and go, okay, I'm done. I think you'll be a lot happier if you make it more interesting. So the point of this one, and the reason it's built this way, is so that we can do some crazy stuff with it, okay? So I think I want to go here. And when I go here, I've got my colors really spread out in an interesting way. And you'll see with your pretty things, I mean, you've got all kinds of canes that I don't have. So you'll see what you want to do about it. The next most important thing about this type of material, and also for your mirror pendants, is to have it be in some decent form before you cut it. And I'm going to show you why, exactly why. In fact, I'll show you right now. We'll just cut right in here. If you take a piece now, and you take another piece now, you may think, well, yeah, this is awesome, I love it. So you go to match it up. Well, it's some weird size, it's some weird shape. I don't know, you're going to distort it a lot by the time you try to bring it together. It's got a weird thickness on the back, so I know what you're going to do. You're going to do what I used to do all the time, and still sometimes I do. I'm going to go, well, I'll just cut this back and I'll just shave this down. Okay, it takes all the fun out of it, and it ends up not looking as good. And sometimes you kind of wish you hadn't. So what I'd like to show you is, if you take your material and you put it in a form that's good before you cut it, you can use all of it that way. I'll show you what I mean. I'm going to just go ahead and start any place here. I'm going to take it down. I kind of like this teardroppy kind of bell shape. So we're going to start there. You're going to need a flat bottom so that those meet up and don't end up making a curve that you may or may not be able to incorporate into your design, okay? So I'm going to move off this because as the Foxman knows, we recently cracked out a really nice work surface by putting too much pressure on it. We don't want to do that again today. So I'm going to go on a nice hard surface. I'm going to flatten the bottom of this material. You'll see it in a second a little bit more clearly. And I'm going to bring it out big enough where I can get a couple good cuts off of it. I'm going to flatten that other side out too. So I'm going to make it pretty neat, because if it's neat now, it's going to be neat later, and you won't have a lot of design that you've had to remove because you couldn't get it to line up, okay? We'll just make this kind of softy triangle. Okay, so before you make your final cuts, you want to straighten out this side, and you don't need to straighten out the rest of it. You might want to use it for something else. And you want to take a couple matching cuts. I work on graph paper, which you might want to do, because I can really see these lines here pretty clearly. So I'm going to take 2 cuts of the same size for this piece, okay? So now when I open them and I match them up, they're already kind of neat. They're already something that you don't have to clean up a lot, okay? And you can already start thinking about what you're going to do with your pendant, okay? And of course, you've always got lots of options. You know, you may be making it to go with a special outfit, and you really want one part of the other to show more, one color or the other to stand out more. So that's the fun of it, is to take your composite material, really tailor it to the way you want it to look and the size and the shape that you want it to end up being. Okay? So there's just a little teeny one. It's kind of small for showing, so I'll show you some other ones and stuff. But you get the idea of that. Once you've built your little pendant out of your scrap and you know that you like it, you're going to want to put it on the backing. I like to make a pretty hardy backing, because I've found that the customers like their pieces to be kind of heavy. To them, lightness kind of equals cheapness, and that was a huge shock to me, because I thought lightness would be more comfortable for people, but honestly, they like things to be a little bit heavier, and I thought I'd pass it on to you, because I actually had that criticism of my work a little bit, was like, well, it's so light. So I'm going to have it be kind of stout, and I'm going to also be able to have plenty of area here to put in my charms, okay, which we're going to do. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to place it on here. You know, these blades bend. I don't think this one bends as much as some of them do, but that's okay. You probably have a tissue blade. I don't think I even have one anymore, but tissue blades will bend in that arc in one cut. But you get the idea. So you got a backing on it now that's nice and neat, and it makes it look more finished. and it gives us our segue into bales. Okay, so you can buy purchased bales. I guess they would be purchased if you bought them, right? You can buy bales. I got these from China in like a big old buttload. I don't even know how many were in there, and they weren't expensive, and they've been really cool, and I've really enjoyed having them. They come like with a little heart-shaped thing on the back, which you could put on the outside if you want to, but I kind of like when it's like this. So what I do with that kind of a bale, you just keep your eyes open for that on eBay, stuff like that, is I like to sandwich the bale between the backing and the piece, really any place. So you're making just a nice little neat cut in there, and you're slipping your bale into it and sealing it back up. And already, you know, it just takes on the look of kind of a, you know, kind of a arty thing, you know. I like those. But you don't have to buy anything special. For the meantime, you can make your own, and I'm going to show you how to do that. So what we got here, we got our composite material. We're going to roll over it. We're going to settle it down a little bit so it doesn't appear to have, you know, a seam. Just still a nice line. And we're going to slip our little bale in between the back and the piece. Even up our edges. You can even trim that if you want to with your curved blade some more. If you don't like the appearance of the bottom or the sides of any of that, a little acrylic paint makes them look really uniform and nice. Okay? And that's how far we've gotten with that. So on the next go round, the next part I'm going to show you is how to make a bale for your pendant out of wire. Okay, so here's a little sneak preview. We'll do that in a minute, okay? So here's a piece of random scrap, you know, the kind that piles up in the corner when you're working, and you wad it up into a glob. So this is not a composite cane. This is a straight up mirror piece. It's going to be a mirror pendant made out of random stuff, and we all have a lot of random stuff, so it's important that we can do that. My method for that is just like I showed you a minute ago. You want a kind of a nice neat piece, and you don't want to be cutting off everything that you just did because it's so wonky and crooked and all that stuff. So you're just making it nice and neat, pretty flat on those edges that matter. I'm going to take 3 slices out of this, and I'll tell you why. When I'm working with random material like this, you don't know what you're going to get. If you wad it up too many times and try it again, I think you've probably experienced that your scale gets to be too small, and really only you and somebody with like an electron microscope can see what you've really got there. That doesn't work. So what I'm going to do with this one, and with all of them that I have enough to, is I'm going to take 2 slices of it. I'm not just going to cut it and go, that's what I've got. So I'm going to take it and make a nice slice in it. It's nice and firm. And I'm going to make another slice in it. So now I've got 2 different ones to choose from. So I'm going to say, which one do I want to use for my piece? Do I like that one? That's really neat. And if you want a lot of blue, that's really neat. Or do I want to go this way? So it's really kind of fun. That's why I'm recommending these little tricks when it comes to making mirror material, because if you just have your one cut, you feel like you're cutting and wadding and forming and cutting and maybe going a long time before you get the one you like. But if you can get 2 cuts from each one, you know, you're better off, and then you have a choice. Okay? So that's just something I like to do, and it turns out to have better pendants that way, because they're really the ones that I really like the most. Okay? So I'm going to set this aside so that we can talk about the charms. And I know that I promised you charms, and I love them. I put them on so many things that I make. I like things to wiggle around and dangle, stuff like that, you know, I always like. So I know this is kind of small, but that's okay. We're probably not going to keep this one anyway. But I like to put charms either across this way, which I think you saw, you know, like in that one. Or sometimes I like to put them over on the corners, like in that one. You'll see what you want to do. So on this one I'm going to put them on the corners because I want to show you how to do these little glass leaves. Now these could be just about anything, Lots of times I make my own leaves, you know, just out of clay. You could do that if you didn't have any glass ones that matched. So leaves are easy to make, and we can talk about that if you want to sometime. So we'll just take this little guy, and all it's going to have to do is hold up these little leaves. And this is how you do it. You take a piece of wire or a head pin. Most people have more head pins on hand than they do wire, so I thought I'd throw that out there. And you're going to want to make a loop in it that can hang on to this little loop, okay? So some people think it's kind of tricky to make a loop, and maybe it is if you don't do it a lot, but I'll show you how to do it, okay? So you're going to hang on to the head end of it, if that's what you've got, and you're going to make a little bend, okay? And then you take your round pliers, and this is the tricky part. You can't ever just bend it over once and make a good loop, because it just totally doesn't work. So what you got to do is you got to do it 2 times. And that's the trick to it. People say, oh, I can't make a loop. Well, it's because probably nobody told them that they need to do it 2 times. So you're going to do it once, and you're going to do it again. And that's really what makes your loop nice, is that you've done it the 2 times. So I'm going to show you that again, because it's real small and hard to see, okay? So you got your piece of wire. Grab it kind of close to the end, you know, and you're going to bend it. We just need a small loop. Then you're going to get your round pliers, and you kind of need these. And you're going to do it 1 time and let it go, and then bring it back around again. And when you do this enough, I'm not kidding, pretty soon you can't tell the difference between the eye pins you made and the eye pins from the store. You get really proficient at it, it's really fun, why not, right? So now you've got your cute little head pin, and you're going to stick it in here. That looks a little long to me, I'm going to cut it. So you're going to stick it in there. Now one thing about it is after you do cure this or bake this, go ahead and pull it back out and put a dot of super glue on it. There are ways to secure pins into material, but that's not really the kind of thing we're making today. So just be sure you remember the glue. Okay, so I've got this little loop, and I'm going to stick it up in here. I'm going to be careful not to you know, blast it through the top or the back or anything like that. That's all you got to worry about there, okay? So I've got my little eye pin that I made, and I've stuck it in there. And now I'm going to put these nice leaves on one of these loops. These rings I've got here are split rings cut in half. And let me tell you why. Because sometimes when you buy rings, the gauge is too large to fit through the little holes in your charms, especially these glass leaves that I really like to use. So if you see that your gauge of your ring is too big, you can always cut a split ring in half, because their gauge is always smaller. So take your ring and almost close it, and then you can hang it on your little eye pin, and then you can completely close it. I do it this way because if you try to work from the other direction of opening the eye pin, it's a lot closer to the raw clay. Of course, you know, if you're smarter than me, you could just bake it first, and you wouldn't have to be worrying about being careful. So, you know. So anyway, so now you've learned to make a little eye pin and a little ring. And don't forget, you can buy eye pins already made. I just don't want you to have to go buy them when you can certainly make them out of any wire that you have, okay? So that's really how you make charms. That's one kind of charm. Some of the other kind of charms that you guys liked were this kind. But see the similarity. On these, I've just taken a bead, 2 beads really, that little antique one and a little cut glass one, and put that up through there and made my eye in it. And it's handy to know how to make the eye, because this has to be a head pin to hold these up, okay? And then I've just hung it through loops I've made and stuck in the bottom. So let's make a loop and stick it in the bottom, okay? If I were to take one of these pieces I already have, and I were to bend it in half, I got me a nifty little loop, okay? So if you want to go that route and you don't want to make an eye, or there's a reason that you want to do it a different way, then you could use this one little bended thing and you could poke it up in there, okay? It needs to be trimmed, but you get the idea, okay? So now you've got a couple things. You've got how to make an eye, and you can make them that way, and I think they look nice and neat. You could use a loop, because maybe you're just going to hang one thing, okay? And you just need the one loop. And then you've got your ring to hang those kind of charms that are drilled in that way. Okay, we can get more into charm making. One thing I want to recommend to you, if you hang a little piece of chain from one of those same areas. I'm going to cover this pendant because I think it's really hideous. I don't even know what I was thinking. But what it is this charm is made by hanging the little piece of chain from the bottom loop and then making your little charms like we just, did, and hanging them from the chain. So honestly, there's no limit to all the stuff you can do with your charms, and you'll see what you have at home, what you like, and you'll develop your own style, which is the whole point, right? So there you have it. Composite material, mirror material, this one. So composite, mirror, dangling charms with a loop, etc. See this little top bail? It's just exactly like I showed you. It's either going to be a loop, like we just made, or it's going to be an eye pin like we just made, or it's going to be a purchased bail. So that about covers it. Easy, huh? So I promised you a bonus cane, and I'm so excited to show it to you because it's really fun and it's really easy to do. So what we're starting out with here is a stack of colors. In fact, I'll show you what it looks like. Hang on a second. You're going to love this. This little cane, this little ordinary cane, is how you make these, I don't even know what they're called. How you make these really cool designs. This is, these are all made with this actual cane. So you can see the different size and the variation you can get out of it. And I'm just going to show you how to do it because I know you're going to want to do it. You can make your pendants out of it. You can make some wall art like that with it. Okay, so all you do is you make a stack. This used to be pretty big, for that. These are just some pieces that I have left of it to play with. But what you're going to need is some squares of this. It needs to start out in a square shape, not in a big slab, okay? And you're going to take off the edges by pressing them in and making them soft edges. Because we almost have to get this rounded. It doesn't have to be completely rounded, just round enough so we can kind of roll it around on our work surface. So I'm taking this guy, I'm pinching him in, and we're going to start rolling with him after we get it a little bit rounded up. Oh, you guys, I want to tell you something while we're doing this. I recently have discovered and been discovered by a website called curious.com. And I'm so glad that I'm going to be associating with them because, as I mentioned earlier, lifelong learning is one of the top things that I value in my whole life, and I think most people value. And what they're offering is kind of a combination of class and information combined in a way that's just so pleasant. They can kind of offer you quite a bit more sophisticated video than I can. And what's neat about it is it's still going to be free, and I'm going to be able to offer you content that you can buy if you want to buy certain content. And that's kind of important because clay is $1.40 an ounce, and so I'm limited to what I can offer you by the fact that how much clay can I buy. And I always do these projects over and over beforehand to make sure I haven't made any mistakes that I would pass on to you. So if I have content that's really involved and that you really want to see and it's really reasonably priced, that's just a good thing. And you got Justin Kitch, and you got Ty Bowie, the founders, And what they're saying is you never have to stop learning. I mean, think about that. And something like that I think could be part of our culture. I mean, I don't even mean to overstate it, but it's not just a trend. It's actually a cultural change thing. We don't have to stop learning at the end of college. And we can keep looking forward to gaining knowledge. So I don't know, I'm just really excited about that. It's everything that I stand for and care about. So if you want to see those videos, they're probably going to be on pretty soon, curious.com. Go on there and see what all they have. I mean, God, I'm a drop in the bucket, man. They've got everything. Everything you can want to know and everything you can imagine. And as I say, my content's going to remain free, and then I'm going to offer you all kinds of extra stuff. Interactive stuff, one-on-one stuff. Just, you know, couldn't be better. So you see what we've done here. We've taken our stripes, we've made them kind of roundy, and we've made them kind of flat. So I'm going to take a piece out. You can leave it any size you want to. I'm going to take a little piece out, and I'm going to make a nice cut in it. It doesn't have to be perfect, as you know. And when I cut it and I open it, I get these. I mean, how easy is that? It's so much fun. And if you like a lot of gold like I do, that's why I kind of used it. Gold is kind of soft. If you use metallic colors, they're going to spread a little bit and give you that look, which I really like. So now you've got this kind of material that takes, as you saw, approximately, what has it been, 4 minutes to make. And you can do all kinds of stuff with it. You can go ahead and stretch it out and wrap it around other shapes. Obviously, you could do bracelets, earrings. The smaller that I go with this, by the way, if I had kept going and making it smaller and smaller when it was still round, then the smaller the scale is of your design. So that's what this is. I hope you want to make it. I think you really like it. And, you know, I'll see you next month. We've got all kinds of stuff coming your way. This deal with curious.com is going to let me do so much more for you, so many more videos. I've got stuff for boys coming up so that you can do it with your kids that are male, and we're not always making this girly stuff. I've got just everything. Next month we're going to be starting our skeinin. And you remember what that is sculpture plus caning. And it sounds more complicated than it is, but it's super rewarding, really fun. So I look forward to seeing you then. Bye-bye for now.